ABC News, around the world and into your home. This is 2020. Downtown. With Elizabeth Vargas, John Quinones, and Cynthia McFadden. Tonight, December 4th, 2000. Police struck before dawn, dragging mothers and fathers from their beds. They say they were cleaning up the town, but take a closer look at the targets.
And they took the whole black community to jail.
In a mostly white town, 1 in 3 black adults rounded up in an undercover sting. The word of one white man convincing jurors they're guilty.
You don't think any of these 46 or so people are innocent?
Nope. What's really going on in Tulia, Texas? Jami Floyd with a story that's turning a sleepy Texas village into a town on trial. Downtown begins with Town on Trial. And now, Jami Floyd.
Tulia, Texas is the kind of town where the dust rises under your feet with every step, and they roll up the sidewalks just after dark. It's a place that's quiet and empty, and the folks who live here, black and white, all know one another, most of them by name. It's not the sort of place you'd expect to find a big drug problem, let alone a major drug ring. But tonight, you're going to hear about one of the biggest drug busts ever in this part of the world. So big, it changed the racial makeup of the town. Tulia, it seemed, had won its war on drugs. The police came at dawn.
I was still asleep. And I answered the door, and there's 2 cops. I mean, everybody had guns pulled.
I opened the door, and he said, "Billy, we got a warrant for your arrest." I said, "Huh? For what?"
They said, for a controlled substance.
And they said, "Well, you have a delivery of a controlled substance." And I said, "To who?" And he said, "Well, the man you delivered the drugs to will be downtown."
I was in my nightgown. They wouldn't let me put on pants.
I didn't have on nothing. I didn't have no shoes, no socks, no shirt, just my boxers. And I asked to put my clothes on. They say, "Where you going? You don't need no clothes."
They were going to jail. Joe Henderson describes the humiliation.
He said, if I don't get my black, you know what, in the car, I'm gonna put you in the car. I said, "Don't do this in front of my kids." They were really shook up. They were just crying, and first thing out of the chief of police's mouth is that he said that we can do what we want to do.
Tulia's tiny African-American community of just 250 was devastated. Eventually, 46 people were arrested, all but 5 of them black. 30% of the adult black population indicted for selling drugs, mostly powdered cocaine, to an undercover police officer. We spoke with 5 of the Tulia defendants. Yule Bryant was one of the first to go to jail.
When I got there, there was another guy in the cell, Vincent. Then Joe came in and Billy came in, and that morning they took the whole black community to jail.
The residents of Tulia, a predominantly white town, awoke that morning to these images on local television. Images of their black neighbors being hauled off to jail by the local sheriff, Larry Stewart.
I think this makes it very obvious that we have a problem. I can tell you that we didn't get everybody.
But no drugs, money, or weapons were found in any of the houses. And what's more, there were identifications that did not match the suspects and seemingly powerful alibis. Like forklift operator Billy Wafer, the husband and father of 2 was indicted for allegedly selling powdered cocaine at a local cattle auction. But he says he wasn't even there.
I had time cards showing that I was at work.
And Wafer says he had witnesses to back him up.
Some of these cases are obviously completely phony. Yule Bryant's case, for example, dismissed by the state after he was in jail for 7 months.
American Civil Liberties Union attorney Jeff Blackburn represents Bryant in a multi-million-dollar civil rights lawsuit against Swisher County. Bryant's police report describes him as a tall black male with bushy-type hair. But that police report is wrong.
How tall are you?
5'6", 5'7".
We also asked Bryant about his hair.
You didn't shave it since that identification?
No, it was shaved before that identification. It's been shaved like that for about 6 years.
So who was filing all these police reports? This man, Tom Coleman, an undercover agent hired by Sheriff Stewart to sniff out drugs in Swisher County. Coleman, who was the central figure in the Tulia drug sting, would later prove a controversial witness. More on Coleman later. Some cases were dismissed, are still pending, or have resulted in probation. But Agent Coleman testified against every defendant who went to trial. So far, 23 of the 46 Tulia defendants have been sent to prison. 57-year-old Joe Moore Sr., who had 2 prior felonies on his record, was convicted of selling just 1/8 of an ounce of powdered cocaine. His sentence, 90 years. But even those with no prior drug convictions got staggering sentences. Freddie Brookins, 20 years. And Kizzy White, no prior drug convictions, 62 years.
In every one of these cases, what the state is doing is saying to a jury, for example, take our word for it, take Coleman's word for it, they should be sentenced to prison. That's it.
132 jurors in the Tulia cases voted to convict based largely on Coleman's testimony and the powdered cocaine he produced in court. Cocaine, he said, came from the defendants. We spoke with 5 of the jurors from 2 of the Tulia trials. You don't think any of these 46 or so people are innocent?
Nope. It'd be real nice if they were. It'd be really easy to get on the other side of it. No.
And if these are the people that we have to get rid of, then let it be.
As the first defendants disappeared behind long prison sentences, 3 we talked to said they felt their choice was clear: plead guilty and take a deal, or go to trial and get the maximum.
You know, I took one look at all those people in the courtroom. You know, it was like, why come there's just nothing but white people in here?
At his trial, Joe Henderson got his first look at the case file and says he was startled by what he saw. The name on the file was not his, but that of his father, Cleveland Joe Henderson Sr., a convicted felon in prison at the time. There was also a photo, not of him, but of his father.
I'm his son. I'm his blood son, but I'm nothing like him.
Yet Henderson told us he was afraid to gamble with a jury, so he pleaded guilty in exchange for 5 years probation. Most of the white residents we spoke with supported the sheriff's decision to execute the raid, but the Tulia defendants found an unlikely ally in an unexpected place. A local wheat and cattle farmer named Gary Gardner has taken up their cause and taken on the white community.
I initially picked up on the raid on television, Channel 7, one morning, and they had images of black people being dragged across the courthouse lawn in their underwear and their hair uncombed, like they weren't humans.
Gardner is an outspoken critic of the local sheriff's war on drugs.
In this county, when someone says drug dealer, they're talking about a person of black skin.
A plain-spoken man who uses the N-word freely when the camera isn't rolling, Gardner is at first blush an unlikely ally for the Tulia defendants. But after the arrests, he says something just didn't sit right.
I knew that we didn't have 46 drug dealers in Tulia.
Why not?
We only got 5,000 people. Who are you going to sell to? They can't be that many.
So Gardner sat through several of the trials, and he started digging.
I'm just an old dumb farmer, and all you got to do is sit down and go over the police reports, and it's there, black and white, and the evidence isn't there.
Take Ramona Strickland. She was indicted on 1 count of selling powdered cocaine. In the police report, Coleman describes her as a black female, 150 pounds. But as you can see, part of the report has been scratched out.
I used my little handheld microscope that I check boll weevil eggs with. After about 6 or 7 hours under the microscope, I deciphered that scratched out part of that police report.
This is what Gardner saw.
Approximately 6 months pregnant.
But Ramona Strickland says she wasn't pregnant.
I have been pregnant since I had my little girl. She's 6 years old.
Nonetheless, she took a plea and paid a fine rather than risk a jury trial. But there were questions about Coleman's undercover methods. For one thing, Coleman didn't wear a wire. He later testified in court and told the local press that he wrote any important information, names, dates, and descriptions of the alleged dealer on his leg.
This is a man, for crimini's sake, who said he was writing down the notes about each case as he went on his leg, and that we should rely on his reminiscences about what was once written on his leg to make these cases. That's crazy.
2 months ago on the local news, District Attorney Terry McEachern defended Coleman's methods.
You couldn't put surveillance in a town the size of Tulia without being noticed, without raising some type of red flag.
But McEachern also told us that law enforcement had used surveillance successfully in the past. Would you have liked to have had some corroboration, another witness if it had been possible, or an audio tape or a videotape, something to back him up a little bit? Would that have...
No, I didn't need that. I didn't really need it. I believed the man that much.
But what about Coleman himself? In a letter to the Tulia Herald, Coleman wrote he was only trying to protect decent citizens from drug dealers. With the ACLU and NAACP lawsuit pending, Coleman, the sheriff, and the district attorney refused to speak with 2020 on camera. They deny the charges in the civil rights lawsuit, and McEachern told our local affiliate that they checked Coleman out before they hired him.
You've got rangers standing up and verifying that he's a truthful person.
But 2020 Downtown has learned that a more thorough check would have called into question Coleman's qualification for any role in law enforcement.
They became aware that this was somebody who couldn't be trusted.
While the Tulia sting was underway, Coleman was actually charged in another county with theft and abuse of official capacity for gas he purchased for personal use on police credit in 1996, before he was hired by Sheriff Stewart. He'd also borrowed almost $7,000 from local vendors and then skipped town.
My opinion, the minute the arrest warrant come down, they should have closed that sting out. Shut it down, fired Mr. Coleman. Because without the integrity of your undercover man, you don't have nothing. You have nothing.
In just one case, the jury heard two sheriff's deputies testify about Coleman's past, testimony that supports this pointed 1996 letter in which Coleman's former boss wrote, "Mr. Coleman should not be in law enforcement." But remarkably, the jurors still believe Coleman. And when we asked jurors in another case who hadn't heard about Coleman's past, they said it wouldn't have made any difference to them either. Would you have wanted to know any more information that would reflect on his credibility, his propensity to tell the truth or not?
We weren't trying him.
And what somebody has done in the past doesn't mean they're not credible at the time that they're doing a different job.
Almost 4 months after he was charged, Coleman did pay off his debts and the charges were dropped. But critics say there's something even more troubling than Coleman's seemingly shady past. They accuse him of changing his story from trial to trial.
If he had one trial, he was testifying to something and it kind of contradicted something he'd said before, he'd say, well, that's not right. This is what I'm saying now.
You begin to see a real pattern of just fudging on the truth, not telling the truth.
So we asked the jurors how important Coleman's truthfulness was for them. What if you knew that he'd lied under oath in other cases? Would that be something relevant to you as a juror?
Sure. I mean, no one should lie under oath, I don't think, for any reason.
And that is perhaps what bothers Gary Gardner most. He says he will continue to fight for and with the Tulia defendants.
I want everyone to have a fair trial. I want every one of these people to get a trial, have it moved to a different county, at least 100 miles from here, 200 miles, with a bunch of jurors that don't know anything that took place in the paper.
Even if that happens, most of the black residents of Tulia say they'll never feel the same about their white neighbors again.
It just split the town down the middle.
They're really showing their true colors now.
And they know that the undercover was, his credibility wasn't that good, and they still say they was guilty. They was guilty.
So far, 10 of those convicted have filed appeals, and in addition to the ACLU and NAACP lawsuit, a complaint has been filed with the Justice Department.